And so it's really, I love politics, and sometimes I pretend that I don't, because sometimes I hate politics, because
Yeah.
I either get
I can,
obsessed with
I
it,
can
or
definitely see that. Well, not just you, but just in general, being like, "Oh, this is fun," and being like, "I
and
am
I hate it.
completely annoyed with you
Yeah,
guys."
right.
Yeah.
So I'll either go all in, or I stop cold turkey. Like, I'm not going to watch the news. I'm not going to care, because I get fed up with it.
Yeah.
But so where we were in South Carolina for 15 years, but we were at this point where I was the associate pastor at the church, feeling kind of frustrated though, because I didn't really love what I was doing. It got to where it didn't feel meaningful, because I was doing a lot of things that were, well, the Lord he was changing my heart, but I wasn't recognizing it as that, and I felt frustrated. And so somebody told me that the guy that's in the state House of Representatives, he's going to retire. And somebody said, you ought to think about running for that seat. And it's like, that just kind of came out of nowhere. And so I went and I met with that guy. He's like, yeah, I'm probably going to retire. And so I said, well, if you retire, then I'll consider running for the seat. And then I left there, and I just kept thinking, I'm supposed to run for this seat whether or not he retires. So I called him, and he was at his office. So I wanted to go to him face to face. I said, I know I told you I wouldn't run against you. I said, but whether you run or retire is up to you. I said, but I'm in the race. I just knew that's what I was supposed to do. And so I launched a 14-month campaign to run for the House of Representatives, and won the primary, lost in the general to that same guy who I had nothing but respect for, and still do. But in so doing, I resigned from the church that I had served for 8 years, because I said they didn't hire me to run for office.
Yeah.
People were saying you could be part-time at the church. They didn't hire me for that. They hired me to do this. And so I resigned. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever made, but I knew I was supposed to do it. And as soon as that happened, there was another church in the same county, like diagonally, couldn't be any farther apart, both bordered opposite counties. And they called and they said, our pastor just resigned. Could you come fill in? Like, well, I'd be happy to fill in. And then they said, can you come back next week? And I'd be happy to come back next week. And then they said, will you be our interim pastor while we look? And I said, y'all know I'm running for the House of Representatives. I'm essentially a politician at this point.
Yeah.
And they said, we know, we want you to be our interim pastor. And then several months later, right after the primary, actually, I won the primary of all things. And they said, we want to take the interim off, and would you be our senior pastor? And I said, absolutely. And I lost the election, but I realized through that was God's way of saying, you're not going to do it on your own. Like, I'm calling you to do this, and you won't do it. You're scared of doing it or whatever. And then I found myself unemployed. And yet here was this church saying, we want you to
we
serve.
can also fix your employment problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of felt like a rebound, but God was saying, I'm going to take care of you. But I knew it was more than that. I knew it was God saying, the only thing that would have ever got you to leave a safe and comfortable position, because they took care of me, man. It was, I was in good shape, but I knew I was fighting, that there's something more than this. And so God said, this is what it's going to take. It was either that or the NBA, and they weren't calling. So something had to get me away from a comfortable position. And that's what it was. I ran a race. I knew I couldn't win. And that's, I ended up pastoring that church for 6 years, and dearly love people, and still stay close with people from both of those churches in South Carolina. It was just an amazing time. But that's ultimately how I got into being a senior pastor, even though
that's not what you wanted.
I was terrified of it. Yeah.
Man, it's funny sometimes how the things that we are absolutely afraid of, God's like, yeah, but I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
but and just to show you how sovereign God is, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I mean, I never have once been terrified. I've never not known what to say. I mean, it's never been Saturday night and I don't know. I mean, this is what I love, man. Every day getting out of bed, especially Sunday mornings, getting out of bed, getting ready to go preach. It's just,
yeah. I mean, I can imagine Sunday mornings here being a good time.
Oh, it's exciting.
Hey, what you just saw is a clip from our show, How Pastors Are Made, where we go through the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups, and the downs of becoming a pastor. We appreciate you for watching. Pretty please hit that like button and definitely hit the subscribe button. If there's a pastor that you want us to speak to, please let us know. If you enjoyed this conversation, then the link to the entire conversation is in the description. Also, we have plenty more conversations with other pastors. We would love for you to watch those as well. If there's a pastor you want us to speak to, again, let us know who the pastor is. If you are a pastor watching this and you want to tell your story on how pastors are made, there's a link in the description. It gives us a little bit of information so that we can contact you and schedule a date to record so you can have the next episode of How Pastors Are Made. With that being said, God bless you. We love you all. Find somebody and find a way to do something good.